Give us free. Give us free.
Your Honor, please instruct the defendant that he cannot disrupt these proceedings with such outbursts.
Give us free. Give us free.
If we are to have any semblance of order in this
Give us
Peace, unity, and welcome my conscious and unconscious family and friends. This is the all-new BlackVillage Community Podcast, and I am truly your host of the show, JC, aka Afro Black, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut, without any fear, as I use my mic as a spear to chucker you with liberated truth. I am your host and your native soldier in the struggle. My purpose and mission for this show is first to enlighten, inform, and engage. And I want to engage with all who claim to know the truth. All truth seekers and my native family, I welcome you. This show is dedicated to all our indigenous native ancestors and to all those who've carried the mantle of truth, and to every person with the ability to throw off the chains of comfortable habit and unwarranted assumption and move in a new, liberated direction that is guided by truth and observational evidence, no matter where that direction may lead you. My main objective and purpose here is freedom, mind, soul, and spirit. That being said, welcome to the BlackVillage Community Podcast, and much love from our great universal goddess and mother of all living here and above.
AC in the house.
I'll answer the question. You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth. Truth.
Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people.
Aboriginal means the original inhabitant of a land from the earliest times. The ancient mound builders that built and designed the pyramids right here, not just by the Nile, contrary to popular belief in denial. Pyramids and huge hieroglyphics and pictographs on the ground are all mounds found around the Americas, North, Central, and South, even Venus and Mars. That is documented fact that emanates from my mouth. So who exactly were these Aboriginals here, whose ancient evidence of residency is hesitantly mentioned in this hemisphere? Were they the stereotypical Native American so-called Red Indians? Well then, let's be clear, ask Indigo, their tribe built their sincere. They'll tell ya, those mounds predate their origins. Our past was erased and replaced with lies. Our achievements and identity plagiarized. We got amnesia of who we are, but we go way back further than the seats in your car.
Aboriginal people, 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 Aboriginal people.
This is how we ride and roll. Soldier for life for sure.
Hey, this is JC, aka Afro Black, and I am here with you for another Indigenous Sunday, to do nothing and to share nothing and to drop nothing but the raw and Uncut. That's what I do here on the Black Village every Indigenous Sunday. You feel me? And today is an Indigenous beautiful day today, people, because whenever I share truth, that makes me feel good. You feel me? Because I enjoy nothing but the raw and uncut truth. You feel me? You feel me? It might hurt a little bit. It might be a little bit uncomfortable. Sometimes it can hurt deeply. You feel me? But you know what? The after effects of truth feels good. You feel me? And so on that note, before I get into dropping what today's podcast topic is, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people out there know exactly what it is, let me change my backdrop music to something a little bit more easy to verbrate. Let me get that together. To conversate, to communicate. Let me put my music on. There you go, right there. There you go, right there. Some Tupac in the backdrop, you feel me? So there we go, right there. Today's podcast topic today, which is, you feel me, December 23rd. On today's podcast topic is, and I quote, why Bill Cosby's rise and fall hurt Black America. Again, let me say that again. Why Bill Cosby's rise and fall hurt Black America. Subtitled, you can't handle the truth. Again, subtitle, people, supporters out there of Bill Cosby, his fans, those who love him, those who are deeply in love with the character, with the persona, Bill Cosby. You can't handle the truth. Today is a can't handle the truth today podcast topic. You feel me, people? And so I'm going to get down or right down to it. What we're going to verberate on today. Today, I want to talk about Brother Bill, but before I go in on Brother Bill, I got something I want to read that's going to speak to what I want to speak to about Bill, because this subject matter that I'm going to talk about Bill Cosby is going to go into about maybe a 2 or 3 part podcast, because I want to deal with different sections of Bill Cosby's character. And the reason why is because you got Bill Cosby, the television actor. You got Bill Cosby, the public persona. When I say the public persona, I'm talking about when he was being interviewed, when he was talking about his shows that he was doing, whenever he was being interviewed and sit down and having a discussion, or when he was promoting something on another show, or promoting his shows. So you got the public persona, but Bill Cosby. Then you got the television actor, Bill Cosby. But then you also got the private man, Bill Cosby. Okay? But when it comes to the public persona, Bill Cosby, that's even broken up into more than one persona, because you got the Bill Cosby that was promoting his show. You got the Bill Cosby that was promoting education. You got the Bill Cosby, the elite Bill Cosby that promotes elitism, that promotes what I would call so-called black conservatism, Bill Cosby. So when I get off into this, I'm going to break this thing down, because I want you guys to see what I see when I saw Bill Cosby back in the 80s, back in the 70s. Well, I grew up on Bill Cosby like a lot of older people in my age bracket, between the age of 40 and 50, grew up watching Bill Cosby. Not everyone, but a lot of us so-called black people who considered ourselves back then in the 70s and the 80s, a black man, I'm proud to be black. You feel me? And Bill Cosby was one of those people that was contributing to that factor, but was contributing to the factor of being proud of being black, but from another perspective. And this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about, was Bill Cosby, good for the so-called black community? Was he really good? Was he really beneficial? Because you got a lot of those out there who support Bill Cosby will tell you Bill Cosby was not a mentor, a father figure, an educator, and he supported the black community. Bill Cosby did not support the black community, or did he? And if he did support the black community, what part of the black community did he support? Because I know, and anybody who don't like Bill Cosby, or there's something about him that they don't like, from an intelligent perspective, would tell you that Bill Cosby did not support the black community. So from my perspective, no, he did not support the black community, because if he did, what part of the black community did he support? Because I know exactly what part that part of the black community, that fringe part, that very fragmented part, that very small part of the black community that he supported. I know exactly who they are. Dan Calloway know who they are. A lot of my Aboriginal culturally conscious warrior researcher brothers know who Bill Cosby is. And so this is the reason why I'm doing this podcast, because I don't comprehend why some of even my Aboriginal brothers support this Negro. And if they don't support him, then why are you putting out podcasts? Why are you doing podcasts? Why are you doing internet podcasts and shows and radio broadcasts talking about the white man did him in? Bill did himself in. And so let me get down to what I want to talk about today. Let me get down to what I want. So right now, what I want to do in this part one of why Bill Cosby's rise and fall hurt black America. Let me start by proving that Bill Cosby was a conservative, an elitist. He was a black elitist. He was a house Negro. He was a token. He was a conformist. This was Bill Cosby. This is the man that most want to ignore and won't admit. Okay? So, speaking to that part of Bill Cosby, which I know that is Bill Cosby, that's the Bill that's sitting in prison right now. The conformist, the house nigga. Yes, the house Negro. Let me say it that way. The house Negro. The African American who sold us out. Most of all, let me point to the fact that he was a black elitist. So I got a book I want to read from to start this podcast off. This book is titled Aristocrats of Color, South and North, the Black Elite, from 1880 to 1920 by Willard B. Gatewood Jr. Again, the title of this book, and you guys can go find the PDF file. I'll try to put it up on my YouTube channel. I'll try to put so you can, and I'll definitely put this book. I would definitely I can't put this up because this is I can't put this up. I'll try to see if I can put this up. Okay, but the title that this book that I'm reading right now, again, is titled Aristocrats of Color, South and North, the Black Elite, from 1880 to 1920. So let me start this podcast off by reading an excerpt from this book, okay? And it goes like this. To discuss class in America is to venture into an area fraught with perils. It may well be that class is the toughest, slipperiest opponent in the lexicon. All the more so when applied to Afro-American society. But failure to consider class division in the community would contribute to what Bayard Rustin once termed the sentimental notion of black solidarity, and to the perpetuation of the myth that black society is homogeneous, mass without significance, and illuminating distinction is in prestige, attitude, behavior, culture, power, and wealth. Throughout the late 19th century and early 20th centuries, black Americans challenged the Jim Crow way of viewing black society, which held that among blacks there were no distinction whatsoever between the industrious and idle, the redefined and vulgar, the educated gentleman or lady, and the noisiest tough of the slums. Contrary to the notion that all Negroes are alike, they argued blacks were in fact marked different in lineage, in education, in inspiration, and in character. In the generation following the Reconstruction, blacks engaged in lively and in frequent discussions regarding the significance and implications of the evolving social gradation in the black community. They spoke in terms of a large lower class, a small and but growing middle class, and a minuscule upper class. Did you hear that? These Negroes, these elite Negroes that got together, had these discussions. They were having the discussions, and these discussions that you hear right now are no different than what the Democrats and Republicans and the Whigs and all them other so-called parties and classifications of parties. There was nothing but caste systems that the white elite were doing when they were reconstructing this country. They were mimicking white people. So let me continue on. The attention devoted to the latter group, which is the minuscule small upper class, usually referred to as the colored aristocrats, Black 400 or upper tens, indicated that its significance was vastly disproportionately in its numbers. Recent studies in Black history led credence to the contemporary assessment in pondering the complexities of class. They have rarely assessments. In pondering the complexities of class, they have revealed much about the diversities and tensions and dynamics of Black society, and leave little doubt that there has always been a Negro elite in some kind. My purpose here is quite modest. And it is to identify Black elite that was predominant in the 40s, following the end of the Reconstruction, and to indicate something of its self-image, ideology, strategies, and relationships to the larger society of both Black and white. Students of the Black class structure generally agree that the upper class was exceedingly small, yet they often divided it into two strata: an old guard at the top tier, the newcomers at the second. The concern here is primarily with the old upper class, whose members may not have spread as angels to all blacks below them, but who often were scarcely more accessible than heavenly creatures. The class structure that emerged in the post-antebellum era was in large measure bound to Black experience with slavery, their place in the slave system, their role in opposing it, and the extent to which their families had been free from it. Following emancipation, those who came from the ranks of the free people of color and privileged slaves who constituted a mulatto elite moved in disproportionate numbers in position of leadership. They viewed themselves as the product of the process of natural selection, superior to other blacks in culture, sophistication, and achievement. A sufficiently large segment of Black communities shared this self-image to legitimize the notion of an elite, or what came to be called an aristocracy, albeit one existing in a society that proclaimed ideals of democracy and equality, and practiced racism and inequality. Did you hear that, people? Did you hear that? These elite Negroes who made themselves special, made themselves superior. Let me read that again. They viewed themselves as the products of the process of natural selection, superior to other blacks in culture, sophistication, and achievement. A sufficiently large segment of the Black community shared this self-image to legitimize the notion of an elite, or what came to be called an aristocracy, albeit one existing in a society that proclaimed ideals of democracy and equality, and practiced racism and inequality, meaning they believe they better than us. Aristocrats of color readily joined other blacks in pursuit of economic and political objectives, but distance and exclusiveness marked their social relationships. Did you hear that? But distance and exclusiveness marked their social relationship with those below them on the social scale. The aristocrats, in fact, embraced a version of Booker T. Washington's famous hand and finger analogy. In all things purely social, and aristocrats tended to be as separate from other blacks as the fingers, yet as a part of the hand in all
in all things. Did you hear that? Listen to this. These motherfuckers work in the dark. They work like devils. They house niggas. Listen to this. The aristocrats, in fact, embraced a version of Booker T. Washington's famous hand-to-finger analogy. In all things purely social, the aristocrats tended to be as separate from other blacks as the fingers, yet one as the hand in all things for progress of the race. For example, in 1897, when a minister of an upper-class church in Atlanta encouraged friendly visitation among the masses, he was careful to explain that there was not the least danger in the plainest people mistaking our kindly interest in an invitation to our private social functions. In small towns and rural areas, it was more difficult for the upper class to isolate itself from other blacks. A member of an old upper class family in Natchez, Mississippi, complained that his town, you are necessarily thrown in frequent contact with persons whom you would not select as your friends. In a large city, you can avoid meeting them at all. Do you hear that? These motherfuckers think they're better than us. These are black people. These are indigenous mixed black people, and some of them are fully indigenous people that have sold themselves over to assimilation, have joined a group. And look, and for this class to exist, for these people to exist, they have to have some type of contractual agreement or some type of treaty with the white devils to do this. Now, you might be saying, what does this have to do with Bill Cosby? I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys right now wondering, what does this history have to do with Bill Cosby? We will get there in a little bit. So let me finish this paragraph. Again, in 1897, when a minister of an upper-class church in Atlanta encouraged friendly visitation among the masses, he was careful to explain that there was not the least danger in the plainest people mistaking our kindly interest as an invitation to our private social functions. In small towns and rural areas, it was difficult for the upper class to isolate itself from other blacks. A member of an old upper class family in Natchez, Mississippi, complained that in his town, you are necessarily known in frequent contact with persons whom you would not select as your friends. In a large city, you can avoid meeting them at all. Aristocrats of color exhibited a self-conscious elitism that bred attitudes and behaviors marked by ambivalence, if not contradiction. On some occasions, this elitism led to the condescension and even contempt toward those below them on the social scale. I ask people today, I ask my indigenous brothers and sisters, do you believe Bill Cosby did not portray this type of attitude with the way he spoke towards his so-called black community back in 2009 when he wrote that book and called himself chastising black folks for not moving up the echelon or moving up the educational scale? Do you believe, what has Bill Cosby ever done for the so-called black community? I ask anybody, other than giving millions of his money to higher education. But what about those who are on the lower echelon of education in this country? And what has education really done for our people? Huh? What, put Barack Obama in office? Barack Obama did not reflect, did not represent, and did not promote, and did not help and do a damn thing for the black community. Barack Obama did the same thing that did the same thing that Bill Cosby did in his career. Barack Obama helped those who were in the upper middle class community. He reached out to those in the upper middle class community and above. Yes. So again, was Bill Cosby a house nigga? Was Bill Cosby a token? Huh? Well, you know what? I got an audio cast here I want to play. This audio cast I want to play right here, I found on NPR. And it's of a woman, a white woman and a black woman, doing a critique of the Bill Cosby show. You got so many people out there who love Bill Cosby because of the Bill Cosby show. Bill Cosby family. The family that represented the black community in a positive way. The show that showed that not all black people are so-called ghetto and not all black people are living impoverished. But the question is, was Bill Cosby good for the black community? And in the process of showing us in a so-called educated, positive light, did it still educate us in a positive way? And I don't think a lot of people consider this, because it appears to me in this country, because we don't give a fuck about our culture, the majority of so-called black Americans who don't care about their culture, don't care about their true identity, and have abandoned these important things that we need, have taken on a house nigga mentality. And it appears to me, from my conscious opinion, that Bill Cosby was cultivating this house niggerish mentality. People, I personally believe there were 3 Bill Cosby personas wrapped into one man. There was the famous, successful comedic entertainer, actor, author, lecturer, voice for the black elite, Bill Cosby. There was the Bill Cosby. I want you to know the Bill Cosby that spoke for the elite. This Bill Cosby, the elitist, conservative, arrogant, boule Bill, who truly, in my opinion, hate the poor and uneducated so-called black Americans. Then there's the Hollywood created famous fictional father figure. Again, I'm gonna say this again. Then there's, excuse me. Then there's the Hollywood created famous fictional father figure, Cliff Huxtable, Dr. Cliff Huxtable, aka Bill Cosby. Most wholeheartedly and faithfully believe was the real Bill Cosby, but was only a television persona. And then there's just the feebly perverted, broken-spirited, and now sickly blind old sellout American Indian black man Bill Cosby. Yeah, I said black American Indian, because Bill Cosby know who he is. Bill know he's indigenous to America. Okay? Who is now convicted and sentenced in prison for perverted, predatory criminal behavior and assault on women, which his fans don't want. And I'm going to get into that in my second or third podcast on Bill Cosby, where I'm going to show that Bill Cosby did do this. Okay. This said, everything that I just said, being honest, I really don't feel a damn thing for neither of Bill Cosby's fictional created personas that played and deceived everyone who believed and who loved and believed in him and thought he was a man of integrity. This is the Bill that used his Hollywood influence and power to make and to take and to break a person's career. It was this kind of advantage and power that Bill had over women and drugged the women that he drugged and raped over the many years. It's this Bill Cosby, I believe, that existed and was presented to the black American community under the disguise, cover, and assimilated image and successful comedic career that Bill Cosby portrayed in that comedic persona on his hit television father figure and actor as Cliff Huxtable, aka Bill Cosby, that people fell in love with, and he deceived everybody. But what I will say that, in respect to his family, who I feel so sorry for. If I feel sorry for anybody, it's not Bill Cosby. I feel sorry for Bill's wife, Camille. For his, I would say 2 daughters, because he just lost a daughter. While he was going through these court cases, he lost a daughter as well. May she rest in peace. And so I don't want to talk about his family, because if anybody I feel sorry for, and I wish the best for, and I wish for their total healing, is his family. But why did Bill Cosby's rise and fall from grace of Hollywood's fictional father figure hurt the so-called black America so much? That's my question. Because I didn't hear anybody talking about Bill's family and their love for his family and their support for his family. I'm hearing everybody's sorry excuses that they're making for Bill Cosby being locked up and the injustice that was so-called done to Bill Cosby by white America, and that he's been whited out, and that he's been get out of here with all that. Get out of here with all that. Again, why did Bill Cosby's rise and fall from the grace of Hollywood's fictional father figure hurt so-called Black America? So I got this audio cast. Before I go any further into that, let me play this audio cast. I got this audio cast I'm going to play. And my point of playing this audio cast, okay, is to show that the Bill Cosby show was created to gain respect from white people. Of course, this show knew that it would draw the attention of the black community. You seeing a father, a so-called black father, Cliff Huxtable, who was played by Cliff Huxtable, who played a doctor. His wife, I said she was a psychiatrist. His wife was a lawyer. Okay, she was a lawyer. I think in the past I said she was a psychiatrist or whatever, but I got it mixed up. His wife, played by Felicia Rashad, she played a lawyer. And they live in a upper class or a middle upper class community. Who would not be drawn to that? Huh? Who would not be drawn to that? And I kind of got off on things a little bit. I wanted to read a little bit of Bill's life, and I'll do that after this. I'll play this track. But who would not be drawn? You got black folks living in lower class communities. You got black folks living in impoverished areas. You got so-called black Americans living in areas and communities where white people used to live in the 1960s and the 50s. Now they've abandoned these areas and they've given them to so-called black people, aka American Indians, where the garbage cleaner used to come through and clean the streets. And now when the white folks leave those areas, the garbage man don't come and clean the streets no more. Now the garbage man used to pick up the garbage on time when white folks lived in those communities in the 1950s and the 60s, in those very projects where World War II vets would live in these projects that were created for World War II vets. And when you had white flight that went on in the late 60s to the early 70s in these very communities, where the garbage man would come in and clean up, and where the milkman would drop milk off. Now all of a sudden all that's cut off. Now the garbage man don't pick up the garbage on time. Now the mailman don't drop the mail off on time anymore. Now the milkman don't pick up and milk and drop off milk no more in those communities no more. You know why? Because they had white flight and they moved so-called black Americans in those communities. And you know what? All the benefits of those communities leave with those white people, including the owners and the landlords. They sell off the property to slumlords. These people, these white devils, create these conditions for us people, and Bill Cosby did not give a damn. He didn't try to change things in a political way for us in this country, because he didn't give a damn. Let me get too much off into Bill Cosby. Let me play this audio cast, people. And my question again, what was the Bill Cosby show? Who was it to benefit, really? Was it to benefit so-called the black community by giving us something to watch and to aspire to? But was it also something meant to appease white people, to make them feel comfortable, and to give white people the image that they're comfortable with? What is that image? The so-called black Negro, the American Negro, the image, the assimilated culturalist, culturally genocidal, who continues the cycle of cultural genocide, who says he's an African American or a black American according to the white people's standards of what they say a black American is, that you are African, that your ancestors are African, that you're not from this country, that you're an immigrant just as much as an immigrant as they white ass, which is a lie. That's what this show was perpetuating, people. And let me play this. This is a white woman. I don't want to say her name because I'm not trying to give her any props on my show. I'm not trying to give this white woman any props, but I got the broadcast. It's an NPR broadcast, and she might even say her name anyway. So let me play this, and I shall return right after this.
But now to the opinion page. 25 years ago this week, NBC introduced us to the Huxtables on primetime TV. They were educated, professional, upper middle class, and black. For Teresa Wiltz, The Cosby Show was mainstream America's first successful introduction to an upper-crust black family, and that alone was revolutionary. But along with folksy humor and colorful sweaters, the show was a platform for Bill Cosby's particular brand of activism. Take the scene in the show's first season when Theo brought home a slate of D's on his report card.
You're a doctor and Mom's a lawyer, and you're both successful and everything, and that's great. But maybe I was born to be a regular person and have a regular life. And so, instead of acting disappointed because I'm not like you, maybe you can just accept who I am and love me anyway because I'm your son.
Theo, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Now, you are afraid to try because you're afraid that your brain is going to explode and it's going to ooze out of your ears.
That's classic Bill Cosby from the first season of The Cosby Show. How about you? Did The Cosby Show change how you saw America or American television? Give us a call, 800-989-8255. Our email address is talk@npr.org. And you can join the conversation on our website. Go to npr.org and click on Talk of the Nation. Teresa Wiltz joins me now in Studio 3A. She's a senior culture writer for TheRoot.com. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You write that the heart of a propagandist beat underneath all the fun of The Cosby Show and that it was activist television disguised as a sitcom. You point to actually the clip we just heard as an example.
Right.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously in the past few years we've certainly seen that a different side of Bill Cosby, an angrier side who has a lot to say about the state of the black community. And so, that's a side we weren't privy to back in the early days of The Cosby Show when it was just Cos and Jell-O and, that kind of thing. He was this very genial, grumpy dad. But he was very focused about the image of the black family that he wanted to present. Originally, it was going to be a working class black family. He was going to be a chauffeur. Felicia Rashad was going to be a Dominican plumber. But he decided that he wanted to present an upper-class black family. And so that's what he did. And he had Harvard psychiatrist Alvin Toussaint, who was a consultant on each and every script. And they parsed them in a very kind of exacting way. One of our reporters, Dio Olopade, reports that originally there was going to be a scene early on in the show when Rudy was getting her hair combed. And she was screaming hysterically and getting louder and louder and louder, which was funny stuff. But neither Toussaint nor Cosby wanted to reinforce a negative image that black hair is something difficult to manage and it's highly problematic. So they got into a bit of a tussle with some of the white producers, but they took the scene out.
Well,
You heard it right there. You heard it there. That's a clip right there. Now, you hear this woman. This is an NPR radio broadcast. And this is a white woman hosting it. The woman who she's talking with is a sister. And they're talking about this show. And you hear them talking about how the show was formatted. Okay? Back in the 80s when I used to watch the Bill Cosby Show, I didn't know what I know now. Okay? The importance of culture. What these people have done to our people is they stripped culture by stripping it from our people before the Reconstruction period, before the Emancipation so-called proclamation was ever drawn up. They stripped culture from our people. They stripped it from our people through laws in the country, where making it where Indians could not practice their culture. They could not practice their heritage or even their religion in areas of this country. You got to remember the Jim Crow laws were set up. Those laws the Jim Crow laws were a double-edged sword. Not only did it separate everybody, but it said at the same time you still had to assimilate. They made laws where your kids had to go to school. They're going to get educated. A part of the education process was assimilation. Why? Your kids had to dress a certain way. The first people they made sure had to cut their hair were black kids, had to cut their hair. Little girls had to have their hair done a certain way. Them people educating our children, when education starts with culture. Education starts with culture. If you don't know your culture, if you don't know your people, if you don't know where you're from, if you don't know the locality of where your people reside and what they did and their achievements, how can you take pride in yourself? Bill did not promote this. He promoted assimilation. He promoted cultural genocide. Bill Cosby was a part of the Eurocentric agenda. And he wrapped it in such a good way that it was presentable to the so-called black community, definitely the white community. It was their idea and their agenda from the very get-go. Let me read this right quick about Bill Cosby's, a little bit on Bill Cosby's backdrop. William Henry Cosby Jr., that's his real name, William Henry Cosby Jr., one of America's most influential and successful entertainers, was born in Germantown, Pennsylvania on July 12, 1937. And William Henry, a U.S. Navy cook, and Anna Pearl Cosby. Again, he was born in Germantown, Pennsylvania on July 12, 1937 to William Henry, a U.S. Navy cook, and Anna Pearl Cosby, a maid. The family struggled financially and moved into Philadelphia's crime-ridden Richard Allen housing project, which provided memorable material for Cosby's later comedy career, which I don't know why, because I don't hear him talking about that in any of his comedy, ever talking about the projects or where he came from, so that's a lie. Cosby became captain of his high school's track and football teams and was accepted into a program for gifted students. There you go. There are the beginnings right there. The beginnings of his connection. Despite his academic and athletic potential, Cosby dropped out of school to join the U.S. Navy, serving 4 years and earning his high school equivalency in 1960. A year later, he was awarded a scholarship to Temple University in Philadelphia. Temple University. To supplement his income, Cosby tended bar and gained a customer following with his wit. He eventually quit school in pursuit of a stand-up comedy career. During the next 2 years, listen here, that's why I know somebody he either met in the military or in college is what boosted him and put him where he was at. Because listen to this. Right after he leaves college, Bill Cosby drops out of college, okay? And check out what happens. Okay. All right, where was I at? Okay. Cosby tended and then he says, all right. In 1965, where was I? Cosby tended a bar, gained customers following his wit. He eventually quit school in pursuit of a stand-up comedy career. During the next 2 years, he regularly performed at a popular gas light cafe in New York City, in New York's Greenwich Village. At the age of 26, Cosby made his television debut. Now listen here. He went from doing comedy in a cafe within 2 years. Okay, he went from doing comedy in a cafe, dropping out of college after doing his 4 years in the Navy. He said at the age of 26, Cosby made his television debut on The Tonight Show, a career break coveted by aspiring comedians. In 1965, Cosby broke barriers when he became the first African American to star in a weekly dramatic television series with his role as a government agent on I Spy, an action-adventure series that ran for 3 seasons and earned him 3 Emmy Awards. Cosby also starred in a number of films, including Uptown Saturday Night in 1974. During the 1970s, he made regular appearances on the educational children's series The Electric Company and Sesame Street, which led to his critically acclaimed cartoon series Fat Albert and The Cosby Kids. In 1972 and 1970, he got his MA degree, his master's degree in 1972. He got his ED degree in 1976 from the University of Massachusetts. Over the years, Cosby has donated millions of dollars to support educational opportunities for African Americans. And that is a serious overstatement. For them to say that he did give millions to support education, but not to support educational opportunities for African Americans. He gave millions of money to college universities to help those who are on their way in college, already in college, or those who are on their way to college who can access that money. Because I want you to know, I got a son that's already got his BA degree already in political science and graduated from college already and on his way back to college to further his education. And my son is in debt. And ain't no money that Bill didn't put there can help. No. Again, let me finish reading this. Over the years, Bill Cosby has donated millions of dollars to support educational opportunities for African Americans, including a 1988 donation of $20 million to Spelman College, the largest single gift to any HBCU. Cosby be most remembered for The Cosby Show. Okay, now again, what has he done for any black community? What about his hometown of Philly? What has he done to Philly? There's nothing he's done for Philly. There's nothing he's done for the... Again, Bill Cosby hated poor black people. Maybe he hated poor black people because he grew up poor. The man grew up in the projects and he hasn't done nothing even for his hometown. Okay? He did exactly what a lot of millionaire white people do. They give to their favorite universities, and these universities give them names and departments in the education departments or in parts of the school or the school itself. Sometimes they build a school and name the school after the rich white devil. But my point being is, why was Bill Cosby following in the footsteps of white people? Why hasn't he done? Why doesn't he have a record or a resume of doing anything in any way at all for the so-called black American community in general? There's so many things that can be done that needs to be done. Why didn't he go to a poor black community? And for every poor kid, I don't care if it was just in his hometown of Philly, why didn't he go to his hometown of Philly and for every kid at the high school that he went to, for every black kid, for every so-called black American that graduate from that high school, he paid their college tuition. Why you couldn't do that? Why you couldn't have a fund set up for that? With the influence that he had in Hollywood, the connections he had in politics. Yes, Bill Cosby had connections in politics as well. I want you to know Bill had everything to do with the support of Barack Obama's candidacy. Yes, I want you to know he was sitting behind the scenes. That's why Oprah came out in the forefront and let folks know what she was doing. Bill didn't want nobody to know what he was doing. He had too much going on anyway. Or he would have been out there in the forefront. His big face would have been out there right next to Oprah's, sitting right there next to Barack Obama. But he had too much going on. You feel me? So the question is, what was Bill's agenda? What was Bill Cosby's agenda? Huh? When he went around calling himself chastising back in 2008, 2009, huh? When he would call himself chastising the black community back in 2007, 2006. Somebody tell me what's going on. And what's up with this woman, this white woman, when you listen to her critiquing Bill Cosby's show, making it appear as if it was some type of revolutionary show and, what I don't understand, what you just heard me read earlier from this article right here, the book that I read from. I read from this book right here, which is the Aristocrats of Color. Aristocrats of Color, the South and the North and the Black Elite from 1880 to 1920. Said the Black Elite has always been here. Anybody who knows black history, and you talk about back in the 1800s, the first black Congress, that was those elite Negroes. That was those Negroes that was educated by white folks, that was sent to England to be educated and came back here. A lot of those indigenous Negroes, indigenous American Indian Negroes who sold out their people because they wanted to conform. They wanted to assimilate. And they looked down on their own people. You feel me? When I was reading from this book, I'm pretty sure if anybody was listening to this show, I'll go right back over it again. It talked about how these people look down. Look, it says, and they look right here. Let me read this again from just this part. It says, They spoke in terms of a large lower class, a small but growing middle class, and a minuscule upper class. Talking about these elite motherfuckers, these black elite motherfuckers, devoted to the latter group, usually referred to as the colored aristocrats. Black 400, the upper tens, indicated that its significance was vastly disproportionate to its number. See, they've always been here. These Negroes have these house Negroes. They sit at the foot of the white man, just like in the movie Django. You saw what I believe that was not Morgan Freeman. Who was the brother? Samuel L. Jackson played that character. Hella, he played it to the T, showing that they the eyes for the white man. They're the teeth for the white man. They're the foot for the white man. You hear them talking about using a term taken from Booker T. Let me read that again. A term they took from Booker T. Washington to keep themselves separate. To keep themselves separate from the rest of the so-called black population. It was called fingers to hand. A thing they call fingers to hand. Let me see, where's it at? Let me go back over there too. Right quick. Oops, I'm going too far. We got to remember, to me, the reason why I'm talking about this is too many of us allow our kids to respect these house Negroes. We as American Aborigines, we who are decolonizing our minds, that's something that a beloved clan mother, she spoke in a YouTube video that I just listened to just recently. The clan mother, she's from the Wampanoag clan, and she said, I'm not going to speak her name because you might not want her name spoken on my show, but the clan mother said that for us to be who we are, to be American Indians, to be culturally connected to our people, to truly represent American Aborigines, we have to decolonize our minds. Because our minds have been, the white man didn't just colonize over here. The white man has now, he's colonized, he's comfortable over here. White man ain't going nowhere. White man ain't going nowhere. So you know what he wanted to do? He wanted to finish the job of colonizing us as a people. Bill Cosby contributed to that colonization. Do you feel me, people? And you might be saying, well, why? Because he promoted education? No, it wasn't the fact that Bill Cosby was promoting education. It was the fact that he was promoting bad education. He wasn't promoting for the education system to fix itself. He was promoting the education that the white man wanted us to embrace. Because the white man's education continues the colonizing of our minds and our spirits. Let me read this right to again. From this book, that I was just reading, excuse me. It goes like this. The aristocrats, in fact, embraced. Some of black aristocrats, the black elite. The black elite, in fact, embraced a version of Booker T. Washington's famous hand-to-fingers analogy. In all things purely social, the aristocrats tended to be as separate from other blacks as the fingers, yet as the hand in all things for progress of the race. What kind of, that sound like some reverse white supremacy. That shit sound like some, and I'm disappointed in Booker T. And now I'm saying Booker T. Washington was an elitist as well. He was a black elitist as well. Obviously, he was a black elitist. I'm starting to have a total different outlook, and starting to a lot of so-called black figures of the past that me myself, JC aka Afro Black, used to look up to. I'm starting to wonder, what's up with the character of these people? Who were these people? Who was Booker T. Washington? Well, because when you read, I know I'm comfortable with Brother Frederick Douglass now, okay? Because Frederick Douglass was trying to he was the one that exposed the fact that they were trying to send us to Africa. Anybody who don't know, go read The Folly of Colonization by Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass tell you who you are, that we are indigenous to America. Read the entire unedited version of Frederick Douglass's 1890 Folly of Colonization. Frederick Douglass tells you who we are. We are American Aborigines. Now, Frederick Douglass don't use that term Aborigine, but he tells you that we are indigenous to America, that we are the original Americans. Read his unedited version, Folly of Colonizations by Frederick Douglass, the unedited version. You got a lot of people out there reading the version that's been edited by white people and shit. So get the raw and uncut. You feel me? So I didn't say this earlier. Anybody ever want to join the show, you can join the show. It doesn't cost you a dime, just a bit of your conscious time. You can chime in at 857-232-0155. Conference code 947595. Again, that is 857-232-0155. Conference code 947595. And this is JC, aka Afro Black, here at the Black Village, dropping the raw and uncut. Again, what was Bill Cosby's mission? What was his real mission? What was his purpose? We know he promoted education. We know he called at one point, I believe it was 2009, 2007, going all the way back to 2006, he called himself chastising or checking the black community. You know, I'm not going to talk about right now what he's locked up for. I'm going to get on that. My point right now in this podcast is to prove that Bill Cosby was a house Negro. Bill Cosby was a token for the system. Bill Cosby was a sellout. Bill Cosby sold his soul. That's why he didn't do for his people. That's why he didn't do a damn thing for his people. This man was a millionaire. Gave $20 million at one time. In one whop, he gave Spelman College $20 million. His resume of philanthropy, of giving to charity, is only given to universities. He's never given to a high school. He's never given to an elementary school. He's never had a school built for a community, for a poor black community that needed a school. You got too many schools in this community that are broken down. The paint is peeling off the wall. They got lead in their paint in the schools that still needs to be taken out. Schools who ain't got paper, ain't got pencils, don't have enough paper and pencils for their kids. Bill could have helped in that area. He could have used his Hollywood influence and power in that area. No, Bill was a elite Negro. He was elite. He was an elitist. This nigga was a promoter of elitism. He was a conservative house Negro. That's what cracked me up. Whenever you're a person of color, the first thing they want to say, you must be a liberal or Democrat. See, and I want you to know, you don't hear Bill talking about a whole lot of politics. That was something he didn't do a whole lot of talking on. But you can see who Bill was by looking at what he did and how he behaved. That's how you can tell who Bill Cosby is. Okay, so I got more audio cast right here I want to play. Let me play another audio cast from this woman's show with them critiquing Bill Cosby's show, because I find it interesting to listen to a white woman and a so-called black woman critique the show the way they were critiquing it. So check, and I want you to know there's white people calling in. People calling in on the show about talking about how they feel about Bill Cosby's show. And listen to me, these are white people calling in on this show. How can I tell? You tell me if I'm wrong. So check it out.
That reinforces your point that the Cosby Show was about showing you black achievement, not necessarily explaining it or talking about it, but just holding itself up as an example.
Right. And it was very matter of fact about it. And the thing that, I mean, it was a sitcom, so it had to succeed as entertainment. It had to succeed as comedy. And so often in sitcoms, I think of like Roseanne Barr and shows like that when they would have like a message. And then so there'd be laugh, stop, meaningful moment, teaching moment, pause, laugh. And so, you know, that, and usually it doesn't work in a sitcom. It's very clunky. So instead what you saw was just, you know, a very loving, extremely successful black couple who had to kind of raise these recalcitrant kids who might bring home D's or whatever on their report card. And just by their example and their expectations, you saw, you know, a normal family. Then that ran very counter to a lot of the images that we had on television of, you know, blacks as cops, you know, robbers and that kind of thing.
On the other hand, the show's been criticized for not being a normal family, that a doctor and a lawyer, that the affluence that the Huxtables enjoyed did not reflect average Black America. This show has taken that criticism for being too otherworldly.
Well, and I would say, what's average Black America? I grew up, I went to prep schools. My dad was a surgeon, and we were an average Black family as well. So, we're not a monolith. There's no one way to be a Black family. There's only one way to be a Black person in America. So, and the other issue is that because there's only one show, there's so much pressure for it to be everything, rather than just one representation of Black life. And I think that's what he did, and I think they did it well.
Let's hear from Susan in New York City. Susan, welcome to Talk of the Nation.
Hello?
Hi, Susan. You're on the air.
Okay. Well, I just listened. I'm listening to your show, and I heard your opening example of the conversation between Bill Cosby and his son in that show. And the reason I think that the Cosby Show was so successful was because it cut across race or ethnicity. It found a common bond between families, allowed families who had TVs all over the country to look in on another family that maybe didn't look like theirs exactly or didn't act like theirs exactly, but really did share a lot of common conversations in their homes, things that were happening in their homes. I mean, that conversation was a classic conversation in most American families who had to have talks with their kids about what their aspirations were for their children and their expectations. And that had nothing to do with race or professions. It had something to do with the American family as a whole. And it just so happened that the family we were watching in our, let's say, from a suburban New York home was a Black family, or a family who might be from the Bronx or from somewhere else. Maybe their parents weren't doctors or lawyers, or they might have been something else, but those classic common conversations were definitely something that resounded like, hey, look, that father is still ranting at his kid just like my father's ranting at me. He may not look like me, but that was the activism there, that in those days when that show started, it cut across the lines of race and sought common bonds among the American people that could be seen in the TV set, and it was very heartening to see that.
Susan, thank you so much for your call.
There you go. I'm going to tell you again. Bill Cosby was and is a conformist. Listen to that white woman talk. Listen to what the host was saying about Bill Cosby presenting something that did not have to be talked about, but just seen. Basically what you're seeing? You're seeing an upper so-called middle class Black family. That's what, not that they're, and look what this white woman, that basically talking about that it cut across color boundaries. Why? Because of the economic status of the family? Is that why it was cutting across? The fact that you've had hundreds of so-called Black Americans that's been shot and killed and assassinated by police in this country. But you know what? Why keep recycling? Because white people don't want to talk about it. It's when white people talk about it is when things change. Because when white people talk about these things, the reason why things change is because this power structure and this system in this country was created by them, put together by them. The corruption that exists is by them. They have to also voice a change for things to change. They can't expect us. But that's the thing. A lot of the things that's been voiced in this country, like by Dr. Martin Luther King before his passing, and Malcolm X and other leaders and so forth, and activists, their voice is just a voice, and then years go by and nothing get done. It's when white people also stand up, and not only stand up, but even before standing up, when it comes to the race issue, sitting at the table and communicating and talking and being honest and being real about it. The Bill Cosby Show made it comfortable for white folks not to talk about race, not to talk about color, not to talk about the disadvantages and the disenfranchised in this country due to systematic racism. He made it comfortable where white people didn't have to talk about those things. And you heard her say that in so many words. So the question is, am I wrong by saying Bill Cosby was a conformist? Huh? You heard the white women say that, they didn't have to talk about it. They showed it. Showed what? They didn't show anything about culture. Matter of fact, I believe there was an episode where Little Raven, when she was on the show, and the younger kids were, when they were wearing dashikis and celebrating so-called African. That's not our history. White people won't be real about even the history in this country. They won't be real about the original people that were the first people on the plantations, the people whose communities that were turned into plantations. They won't even be original. They won't be honest. They have no integrity when it comes to American history in this country. How are they going to tell us what is good for us when they won't even be honest about the truth? How can these devils tell us what's good for us? How dare they tell us what's good for us? And that's what they did by the Bill Cosby Show, by them elevating the Bill Cosby Show, by they putting all this emphasis and their love and attention on what, and even the fact that they're even talking about the Bill Cosby Show shows that it's them trying to tell us what's good for us. And that's what we got to stop, people. For us to be decolonized, we got to stop letting these people tell us what's good for us. Playing them goddamn psychological games on us because they still talking to us like we slaves, and we let them do that. That got to change. That got to change. You know what? My time is actually up. I want to continue this, but you know what? Before I get off the air, I'm gonna prove something. Bill Cosby was a black elitist. Now, to prove my point and to continue to make my foundation for what I'm saying, because you got to understand. I got an audio cast I want to play by Brother Cornel West. Okay, I want to play this by Brother Cornel West. Let me see. Let's see which one is it. Make sure I'm putting the right one in. Alrighty. All right, so I want to play this by Cornel West, and Cornel West is talking about. Let me just let Cornel West say it, okay? And shall return right after this.
Hammer all my day.
Welcome to Days of Revolt. I'm Chris Hedges. This is part 2 of our interview with Dr. Cornel West, where we are examining the Black prophetic tradition, which he has laid out in his great book, Black Prophetic Fire, its importance within America, and what has happened to it with the rise of neoliberalism in the wake of the Civil Rights Movement. Welcome, Dr. West.
Blessed to be here again.
So let's take, if I'm correct, let's take the Civil Rights Movement as the starting point. I think you've pointed out that it was a legal victory, but not an economic victory, and that with institutionalized racism, particularly in terms of economic discrimination, the creation of what Malcolm X and I think finally Martin Luther King referred to as our internal colonies, invisible walls, the very physical walls of mass incarceration. You promoted a certain segment of the black elite into what you refer to as the lumpen bourgeoisie, and yet you could argue that for the bottom 3/4 of African Americans in this country, life is maybe worse than when King marched in Selma. There was an assault against the black prophetic tradition, the most important intellectual tradition in America because of its critique of empire, its critique of poverty, its critique of systems of capitalism sustained by white supremacy. What happened to that tradition, which was given voice in the 60s through radical mass movements and our martyrs, Malcolm and Martin? How was it dismantled?
It was dismantled, one, by trying to instill a fear within black people, within poor people, within working people, so that we no longer would want to straighten our backs up and engage in collective fight back. What took the place of collective fight back was individual upward mobility. So that what was once in place, much more stronger moral conviction, we saw ruthless ambition. So you look at the formation of the black professional class, doctors, lawyers, pharmacists, professors, politicians across the board. They have much less fire. Why? Because they're much more tied to ruthless ambition than they are to moral conviction. They're much less tied to a we consciousness as opposed to just an I consciousness concerned about upward mobility. There's always going to be some prophetic professionals, but it's a small slice, and it is not connected to the energies of black poor people. It's completely severed.
But to an extent, don't they even demonize the black poor?
Well, I mean, elements of them do, and of course they not only keep a distance, but they can contribute to the callousness and the indifference toward the plight and predicament of the black poor and poor people across the board. So what happens? Well, your warriors end up incarcerated or killed. You get your professionals who surface at the top. They tend to be nerdy, smart, self-promoting, not taking any risks, very little courage, highly conformist, and usually when it comes to battle, complacent. On the other hand, you say, oh, we've got memories of the social movements. And of course, when we talk about the civil rights movement, there is no civil rights victories without the rebellions of Watts.
That's right.
Without Newark, Detroit, we can go on and on and on. Plainfield had the rebellion right after Newark and so forth. But of course, oftentimes these precious poor people, they were not the beneficiaries of it. Their bodies, their sacrifice, did generate the conditions under which this new black middle class could move into place. But what did it do? For the most part, that black middle class, driven by ruthless ambition, became well adjusted to injustice and well adapted to indifference. And so they may point to a Martin Luther King Jr. every January, but Martin Luther King Jr. of 1965 and 1966 and 1968 have no place in how they go about living their lives, engaging in their politics. And of course, black folk, for the most part, became just extensions of a milquetoast neoliberal Democratic Party. But Adolph Reed and a host of others told this story many, many years ago. It's becoming much more crystallized, and we have to be willing to tell the truth no matter how unpopular it is.
There you go. You heard it. You heard from Brother Cornel West. I don't even agree. Me and Cornel, I love Brother Cornel West. I love him because he tells it raw and uncut. I don't agree with all his politics. I don't agree with everything that he does. And to me, he's fallen short as well when it comes to telling us who we are, because Brother Cornel West himself, that Negro, is an American Aboriginal. Cornel West is an American Indian. He ain't no African. Okay? So, but he's telling the raw and uncut. You heard him tell it right there. Now, if you listen to that again. Anybody, if you listen to my show after it's uploaded, after I'm off the air, go ahead and rewind that again. When he talks about, you hear Brother Cornel tell you about what the problem with elitism, the attitude of the elite, the manipulation of the elite, the behavior and the operation of the elite, and how they look at us and how they treat us when we're actually one people. And he's telling you what has happened, how this is what the white folks wanted. They wanted us to be separated, where at one time we moved together as one people during Black Wall Street. During Black Wall Street, we were one people. Huh? Not everybody is a doctor, but the doctor didn't disrespect the brother who was a construction worker. The construction worker didn't disrespect the brother who dug ditches, or the brother who built fences, or the brother who went out and hunted, or the brother who did other things who wasn't a teacher. We saw each other as one people during that time. Now you see what he said. Cornel West says individualism now, huh? That's what he said. Let me just play a little bit this right before I get off there. Let me play a little bit more of this right here. What this brother says again. Y'all got to hear this again. Check this out.
Straighten our backs up and engage in collective fight back. What took the
Malcolm and Martin? How was it dismantled?
It was dismantled, one, by trying to instill a fear within black people, within poor people, within working people, so that we no longer would want to straighten our backs up and engage in collective fight back. What took the place of collective fight back was individual upward mobility. So that what was once in place, much more stronger moral conviction.
You heard it though right there. Huh? In other words, you don't see yourself as a part of the collective no more. He said they got rid of the collective fight back. During Black Wall Street, and it was more than one Black Wall Street in this country, folks, so people who do your research. We were a collective people. We saw ourselves as one people. We looked out for one another. Now we look out just for self. That's that individual, that selfishness that's been bred into the so-called black community. We got to wake up from that. We got to be decolonized, people. We got to decolonize our minds. Our minds are colonized by Eurocentric behavior, Eurocentric thinking, Eurocentric eating, Eurocentric living. We got to stop living, acting, behaving, embracing white ideology, Eurocentric ideology. We got to decolonize our minds. We got to care about truth. We got to be seekers of truth. And that's starting with knowing the truth of who you are, the truth of self. The truth of who are you? Who are you? Are you an African? Are you an American Aboriginal? Are you an islander? Huh? Are you from the islands? Are you a Caribbean? Who are you? Where are your people from? Where's your mother's people from? Where's your father's people from? Are you a mixture of both? Find out who you are before you can move on to the next level. And that's what this is all about. And that's what I do here on the Black Village. All about dropping the raw and uncut, sharing the truth. And you know what? My show is over, people. I got to go. I'll be back next Indigenous Sunday. I'm going to continue this podcast subject to a part two of why Bill Cosby's Rise and Fall hurt Black America. The question is not just why, how. I'm going to tell you why it hurt, because people didn't know the real Bill. Bill was a conformist. He pushed that conformity ideology. He pushed that cultural genocide. He pushed that assimilation. Yes, he did. And you know, somebody, well, you talking about black universities, He didn't tell you to go to a white university, even though he went to, come on, yeah, he did. He went to Temple University. That's a white university. But you know what? It doesn't matter, because even the so-called black universities, Georgetown University, Morehouse University, Spelman, these so-called black universities are still what? Their education and the foundation of their education is still Eurocentric. Yeah, people, it is. Go check it out. They're not teaching us the truth. They're not teaching us the truth of our culture. They're perpetuating and also propagating and promoting that propaganda of African-American bullcrap at them universities, at Spelman, at Morehouse. Yes, at Duke University. Yes. You can find the truth, but you got to do that on your own. You can find the truth, but you got to do that on your own. So that's why we got to be seekers of truth, people. That's why we got to be truth seekers on our own, looking for the truth. And as we find the truth, those of us who are American Aborigines, we got to come together and we got to network together. We must come together and network together. We must be a family, people. We got to come together as a family. So I'm reaching out to my brothers. I want my brothers like Brother Dane Calloway. Call me on my show, my brother. Call my show, The Black Village. Call me. Call my number, brother. Go to my website and get my information, my brother. So getting in touch with you is almost like impossible. Brothers like Brother Tacha, this one, man. I've reached out to you, my brother. Reach out to me, my brother. We got a network. We got to do things together, people. I've reached out to Brother Turtle Gang, and that brother, he responded back to me, and we'll see what's going on from there. But we got to reach out together, people. We got to do things. We got to make things happen together. And the thing that we must do first, the thing that's most important first before we take any step, you got so many people talking about we need money to do this, we need money to do that. No, what we need to do first is that we need to find yourself. I know me, I'm an American Aboriginal, and I'm all about promoting cultural awareness, cultural identity. American Aboriginal cultural awareness. That's what I'm all about, people. because too many of my people are lost. And the only people who are lost are those who call themselves black, those who call themselves African American. Those are the ones who are lost. Why didn't Bill promote this? Huh? Why did Bill hide and conform? Why did Bill assimilate? What's up? Huh? How was that helping Black America by not teaching so-called Black America the truth of who they are? Because Black America is not Black America. Black America is not African America. Black America is not Negro America. Black America is American Indian. Black America is American Aboriginal. Why couldn't Bill tell the truth about that? He knew this. Why did he push this conformist, black elitist agenda? Somebody help me with that, because I don't see that benefiting us when I read what these black elites are really about. When I read that these fools have an attitude that they're more superior than those who they consider beneath them, and those they consider beneath them happens to be the socially and economically, financially disadvantaged part of poor so-called Black America. They sound like, to me, black racist. They sound like white. Actually, they sound like white racist. I can't even call them black racist. Just because these Negroes got melanated skin, their minds are not melanated, obviously. So on that note, people, I got to go. But I'll definitely be back next Indigenous Sunday to drop nothing but the raw and uncut, and do as I always do, and that's share nothing but raw and uncut truth, people. So you can chime in. You can reach me at any Sunday. Every Sunday, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut from 3 to 4. You feel me? West Coast time zone. You can chime in. You can reach me at 857-232-0155. Conference code 947595. And so on that note, people, I got to go. But I'll definitely be back my next Indigenous Sunday to continue this in a part 2 of why Bill Cosby's Rise and Fall hurt Black America. Subtitled, You Can't Handle the Truth. Part 2 next week. You feel me? So join me here at the Black Village. And this is JC, aka for Black. I love you, love me, love yourself. First, learn who you are to know who you are so that you can love who you are. You feel me? On that note, I gotta go. And so as always, may the great mother bring us together in the love of her peace. And as always, I love chicken, so love, peace, and chicken grease. I'm outie.
Aboriginal people, 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 Aboriginal people.
No matter where you go, in every country we in there. Most of us did not come on slave ships, we've been here. Indian just means amalgamated more. The U.S. tried to wipe us out in 3 seminal wars. For each Aboriginal, 7 troops died. 90% of Indians were reclassified as Negroes. We fought European foes. Africa's great, but we don't look under our nose. Or now here's the Old Man River, or the Maasai sequel, knock out the Mississippi. We're the Yamasee people, and others here like the Washita, the Chocos in Colombia, Dadiendes in Panama, the Garifunas and more. We're prisoners of war. Our titles, nationalities, and birthrights ignored. We got a huge missing gap in our past and been divided into race or some type of caste. Everyone else has a language, where's mine? Cause ours is long gone like your grandpa's hairline.
Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal